When the Harrison family bought their dream house on Maple Street, they thought they had found the perfect home. The Victorian-style house had everything they wanted: 4 spacious bedrooms, a beautiful garden, and enough room for their growing family. But there was one thing they hadn't anticipated. Their golden retriever, Bailey, would absolutely refuse to enter the master bedroom upstairs. From the very first day they moved in, Bailey exhibited the most peculiar behavior. The moment anyone tried to coax him up the stairs toward the master bedroom, he would freeze at the doorway, his fur standing on end. His usually warm brown eyes would widen with what could only be described as pure terror, and he would back away slowly, whimpering as if he had seen something horrific that human eyes couldn't detect. "Come on, Bailey," Jennifer Harrison called sweetly, patting her leg to encourage the normally obedient dog. "It's just Mom and Dad's room. There's nothing scary in here." But Bailey remained planted firmly in the hallway, his muscular body trembling with an inexplicable fear that seemed to emanate from his very core. David Harrison, Jennifer's husband, initially dismissed the behavior as typical adjustment anxiety. "He'll get used to the new house," he assured his wife as they watched their beloved pet pace nervously outside their bedroom door. "Dogs can be sensitive to new environments. Give him a few weeks." But weeks passed, and Bailey's behavior didn't improve. If anything, it intensified. The dog would sleep outside their bedroom door every single night, positioning himself like a furry guardian, but he would never, under any circumstances, step even one paw inside the room itself. During the day, if the family was upstairs, Bailey would wait anxiously at the top of the stairs, whining softly until they emerged from the master bedroom. Their 8-year-old daughter, Emma, found her dog's behavior particularly distressing. "Why won't Bailey come into your room, Mommy?" she asked one evening, her small face wrinkled with concern. "He comes into my room all the time. He even sleeps on my bed sometimes." Jennifer knelt down to Emma's level, stroking her daughter's blonde hair gently. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe there's a smell in there he doesn't like, or maybe the room feels different to him somehow." But deep down, Jennifer was beginning to feel increasingly uneasy about the situation. She had always believed that animals possessed a sixth sense about things that humans couldn't perceive, and Bailey's consistent refusal to enter their bedroom was starting to give her chills, especially during the long, dark winter nights when the old house seemed to creak and settle around them. 3 months after moving in, the situation escalated dramatically. Jennifer was getting dressed for work one morning when she heard the most bone-chilling sound she had ever heard from Bailey, a low, guttural growl that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. She rushed to the bedroom door to find Bailey standing in the hallway, his hackles raised, staring intently at something inside their room that she couldn't see. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, following his gaze. But the room appeared completely normal, their queen-sized bed with its blue comforter, David's dresser with his cologne bottles neatly arranged, her vanity table with its collection of jewelry boxes. Nothing seemed out of place, yet Bailey continued to growl, his eyes fixed on the far wall near the window. The growling lasted for nearly 10 minutes before Bailey finally relaxed. But the incident left Jennifer deeply shaken. When she told David about it that evening, he suggested they take Bailey to the veterinarian for a thorough examination. Dr. Sarah Mitchell had been Bailey's veterinarian for over 5 years, ever since he was a puppy. She knew him as a gentle, well-balanced dog with no history of anxiety or behavioral problems. When the Harrison family brought him in for an emergency behavioral consultation, she was genuinely puzzled by their description of his recent behavior. "Has anything traumatic happened to Bailey recently?" Dr. Mitchell asked, running her experienced hands over the dog's golden coat. "Any accidents, injuries, or changes in his routine besides the move?" David shook his head. "Nothing at all. He's been perfectly normal in every other way. He plays, eats well, responds to commands, shows affection to the family. It's literally just this one room that seems to terrify him." Dr. Mitchell conducted a comprehensive examination, checking Bailey's eyes, ears, reflexes, and physical condition. Every test came back normal. "Physically, Bailey is in excellent health," she concluded. Sometimes dogs can develop specific phobias related to particular locations, especially if they associate those spaces with negative experiences. But without an obvious trigger, this is quite unusual. She recommended consulting with an animal behaviorist. But even after several sessions with Dr. James Weber, a respected canine psychologist, Bailey's behavior remained unchanged. Dr. Weber tried desensitization techniques, positive reinforcement training, and even mild anti-anxiety medication, but nothing seemed to help. Bailey remained adamant about avoiding the master bedroom. As autumn approached and the days grew shorter, Bailey's nighttime behavior became even more disturbing. He would pace the hallway outside the master bedroom from midnight until dawn, occasionally letting out small whimpers or sharp barks that would wake the entire family. The lack of sleep was taking its toll on everyone, and David was beginning to lose his patience with the situation. "We can't go on like this," he said one sleepless morning, dark circles under his eyes as he sipped his coffee with trembling hands. "Maybe we should consider rehoming Bailey if he can't adjust to living here." The suggestion horrified both Jennifer and Emma. Bailey had been part of their family for 5 years, and the thought of giving him away was unthinkable. "We're not giving up on him," Jennifer declared firmly. "There has to be an explanation for this behavior. Dogs don't just develop irrational fears without reason." That weekend, Jennifer decided to conduct her own investigation. While David took Emma to her soccer game, she spent hours in the master bedroom, examining every inch of the space, looking for anything that might explain Bailey's terror. She checked for unusual odors, strange sounds, temperature variations, or anything else that might be invisible to humans but obvious to a dog's enhanced senses. As she knelt near the far wall where Bailey always seemed to focus his attention, Jennifer noticed something she had never seen before. The hardwood floor had a slightly different pattern near the baseboard, as if the floorboards had been cut and replaced at some point. Running her fingers along the wall, she could feel an almost imperceptible seam in the wallpaper that suggested the wall might have been repaired or modified. Her heart racing with a mixture of curiosity and dread. Jennifer called David's cell phone. "I think I found something," she said, her voice barely steady. "Can you and Emma come home? I think we need to look behind this wall." When David and Emma returned, Jennifer showed them her discovery. Under closer inspection, it became clear that a section of the wall had indeed been altered. The paint was slightly different, the wallpaper didn't quite match, and the floorboards had definitely been replaced in that specific area. "Should we call the police?" Jennifer asked, her imagination running wild with possibilities. "What if there's something illegal hidden back there?" David considered their options carefully. They could contact the previous owners, but the elderly couple who had sold them the house had moved to a retirement community in Florida and might not remember details about renovations. They could call the police, but without evidence of actual wrongdoing, they might not take their concerns seriously. "Let's see what's back there first," David decided. "If it's something concerning, then we'll involve the authorities." The next morning, David borrowed a sledgehammer from his neighbor and carefully began removing the drywall from the suspicious section of the wall. As the first pieces fell away, they could see that there was indeed a hidden space behind the wall, a space that had been deliberately sealed up. Bailey, who had been watching the demolition from the safety of the hallway, began barking frantically as soon as the first hole appeared in the wall. His barks weren't angry or protective. They were urgent, as if he was trying to warn them about something terrible. As David enlarged the opening, a musty, stale odor began to fill the room. It wasn't the smell of death or decay, but rather the scent of old air that had been trapped for years. With a flashlight in hand, David peered into the dark space behind the wall. What he saw made him stumble backward in shock. The hidden space was a small room, perhaps 6 feet by 8 feet, with no windows and no ventilation. The walls were covered with disturbing drawings and writings, childlike crayon scribbles, mixed with more mature handwriting that seemed to document years of isolation and despair. "Help me" was written over and over again in different colored crayons and pencils. Stick figure drawings showed a small person trapped behind walls while larger figures stood outside. But most horrifying of all was what lay on the small cot in the corner of the secret room. The skeletal remains of what appeared to be a young child, still wearing the tattered remains of a pink dress. Beside the remains was a small diary, its pages yellowed with age but still readable. Jennifer screamed and covered Emma's eyes, pulling her daughter away from the horrific scene. David immediately called 911, his hands shaking as he tried to explain to the dispatcher what they had discovered. Within an hour, their house was swarming with police officers, crime scene investigators, and the coroner. Detective Maria Santos took detailed statements from the Harrison family and examined the hidden room with her team. The diary found beside the remains told a heartbreaking story that would haunt everyone involved. The diary belonged to a 7-year-old girl named Lucy Pemberton, who had lived in the house with her adoptive parents in the early 1990s. The entries, written in child's handwriting, described being locked in the hidden room as punishment for minor infractions, speaking too loudly, spilling food, asking questions. What had started as brief timeouts had gradually escalated to days and eventually weeks of isolation. The final entry, dated 3 months before the adoptive parents had suddenly moved away, simply read, "I don't think anyone remembers I'm here anymore. Bailey would remember me. Bailey was my friend." The entry was signed with a small drawing of a heart. Detective Santos explained to the devastated Harrison family that Lucy Pemberton had been reported missing by her school in 1993, but the adoptive parents had claimed she had run away. The case had gone cold when the parents moved out of state shortly after the missing person report was filed. "Your dog somehow sensed what happened in this room," Detective Santos told them gently. "Animals are incredibly sensitive to trauma and tragedy. Bailey knew something terrible had occurred here, even though it happened years before you moved in." The discovery made national news, and the Harrison family found themselves at the center of a media storm. They cooperated fully with the police investigation, which eventually led to the arrest of Lucy's adoptive parents, who were found living under assumed names in Arizona. Bailey's behavior changed immediately after Lucy's remains were removed from the house and given proper burial. He began entering the master bedroom normally, as if whatever had been holding him back was finally at peace. The family attended Lucy's funeral, bringing Bailey with them. The dog sat quietly beside Lucy's grave, as if paying respects to the little girl whose suffering he had somehow sensed all along. The Harrison family decided to stay in the house, after extensive counseling and spiritual cleansing. They converted the former master bedroom into Emma's playroom and moved their own bedroom to another part of the house. They also installed a small memorial garden in their backyard with a bench dedicated to Lucy's memory. "Animals know things we can't understand," Jennifer would tell people who asked about their experience. Bailey wasn't just being difficult or scared. He was bearing witness to a tragedy and trying to tell us that something was wrong. He was Lucy's voice when she no longer had one. The case brought renewed attention to missing children cases and led to new protocols for investigating disappearances. Lucy Pemberton's case became a symbol of the importance of listening to all voices, even those that couldn't speak for themselves. Emma, now older and wiser from the experience, developed a special bond with Bailey that seemed to be touched by their shared connection to Lucy's story. "Bailey is a hero," she would tell her friends at school. He made sure Lucy wasn't forgotten. Bailey lived for several more years, always gentle and protective of his family, but with a new sense of purpose that seemed to come from his role in bringing justice to a girl who had been silenced too soon. He had proven that love and loyalty transcend even death itself, and that some bonds are so strong they can reach across time to right the wrongs of the past. The house on Maple Street stands today as a reminder that homes hold memories, both joyful and tragic, and that sometimes it takes the pure heart of an animal to help heal the wounds that human cruelty leaves behind. Years later, visitors still come to the house, drawn by Bailey's incredible story and Lucy's tragic tale. Many bring their own dogs, hoping to understand the mysterious connection between animals and the spiritual world that Bailey demonstrated powerfully. The memorial garden has become a place of pilgrimage for families who have lost children, offering them hope that love transcends death and that justice, though delayed, will eventually prevail. Bailey's legacy lives on in the countless lives he touched through his unwavering loyalty and his remarkable ability to sense what humans could not. His story continues to inspire animal behaviorists, paranormal researchers, and anyone who believes in the extraordinary bond between humans and their faithful companions. The Harrison family often reflects on how a simple refusal to enter a room led to solving one of the community's oldest cold cases and bringing peace to a forgotten little girl.